everybody. Old guy here. A series to me is one involving the same characters or groups or locales in different circumstances or time. Whether the story continues or it changes into something else. Different from trilogies, as I've alluded, usually they turn out to be a continuation of an initial trilogy, unless they're actually written as episodes in someone's life, such as Sherlock Holmes. Unless I pick up the first book in a series, I usually won't read it. Even if I run across book 5 or 15 and it looks pretty interesting, because the first book is the one that sets the tone, so how do you know it's being true to itself? That's kept me from starting a whole mess of what look like really good things, good stories. But eventually. So far, here's the ones I've enjoyed the most. The Happy Hollisters by Jerry West. Yes, kids book, kids series, and it was very popular in my elementary school, B.C. Sweeney in Lawton, Oklahoma. Little library in that school, but it had a decent selection of all kinds of kids books, including my second favorite series at the time, the We Were There series, We Were There books, which was history told from the perspective of a 8 or 10-year-old kid. The Hollisters were an ideal family of 5 kids, 2 parents, lots of cats and dogs, and even a burro. They went around solving mysteries. They were opposed by 2 bullies, Joey Brill and Will Wilson, who were there more for comic relief than anything. I loved that family. I wanted to be in that family. Number 9, Doc Savage by Kenneth Robeson. Moving on to 5th and 6th grade in New Brockton, Alabama, we boys and quite a few of the girls were obsessed with the Doc Savage books. Doc Savage, a bronze-skinned adventurer, led a crack team of secret agents around the world to solve what first looks like some kind of a supernatural event, but then turns into something more mundane. Think of it as hardcore Scooby-Doo. We passed those books back and forth among us, calling dibs on titles that someone else had, and conducting 4- and 5-way swaps that would rival the most intricate of stock trades. Well before the internet, with the nearest actual bookstore dozens of miles away, and most of our parents disinclined to take us there, we still managed to capture and read most of the available titles. Where there's a will, well, there's usually a dead person. Number 8, the Lucas Davenport series, written by John Sanford. Of course, there's going to be a lot of detective series, but frankly, most of them don't do anything for me. This one did. Lucas Davenport is a Minneapolis police officer and troubleshooter who gets involved in the damnedest cases. Also called the Prey series because each title has the word prey in it. There is a companion series called the Virgil Flowers series, who is another detective that Davenport recruits into the police department. And I'll tell you, in a lot of ways, Virgil Flowers is a more interesting character. Number 7, the Gentleman Bastard series by Scott Lynch. Starting with the lies of Locke Lamora, this is a rollicking fantasy set in the terrible city of Camor, where theft and murder are pretty much the daily routine, and where we have the gentlemen bastards, the 5 best thieves on the whole planet, although no one knows it. Their dialogue is simply hilarious, especially when they're all insulting each other. Lynch does not pull any punches in this series, and you can expect your favorite character to get killed at some point. Heck, you don't even get to meet Sabitha, one of the most important characters of all, until the 3rd novel. Number 6, John Carter of Mars by Edgar Rice Burroughs. Another set of books that we 5th through 7th graders regularly passed back and forth, which really shouldn't need much of an introduction. I'm sure all of you are familiar with it. But John Carter is an Earthman, a former Confederate cavalry officer, who, while hiding from the Apaches in Arizona, is mysteriously transported to Barsoom, which you know as Mars. There he fights for the hand of Princess Deja Thoris, who all of us boys, and even a few of the girls, were deeply in love with. And I gotta say something about the Tarzan series too. The books are extraordinary. You should give a couple of them a read. Number 5, The Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe. Beginning with The Shadow of the Torturer, this is 4 novels set in the far future and tells the story of Severian, a disgraced torturer who is thrown out of the guild and forced to ply his trade in a far distant city where he goes from one hair-raising adventure to another. Wolfe used the same world for his Long Sun and Short Sun series. Number 4, A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin, and you knew this was going to be in there. Starting with A Game of Thrones, do I really need to go much further into it? This is a brutal version of Tolkien that, in my opinion, is far more realistic, if you can say that about a fantasy novel. These people act just like you'd expect people to act if this was how we selected the president. Come to think of it. Number 3, Horatio Hornblower by C.S. Forester. The classic series of Imperial England throwing its naval weight around the world, beginning with the book Beat to Quarters. Hornblower is a delightful character who makes plenty of mistakes in his climb through the ranks. I haven't read Master and Commander series, but I hear it's as good. Number 2, The Expanse by James S.A. Corey. The penultimate, mundane, near-Earth, whatever term you want to use to describe a science fiction of the close future with its limitations of science and physics. The only complaint I have about this series is the part that makes it so intriguing, the alien molecule. If it's a near-Earth story, what are aliens doing here? In a matter of 3 or 4 novels, this is no longer a near-Earth story, but it's space opera writ galactic-wide, and, well, you know, that's okay. One does expect the science to improve, especially if it's kickstarted by an evil corporation intent on making a weapon out of the alien tech. Fortunately, the alien tech has a better idea. this was turned into a rather decent sci-fi television series. And number 1, Bob Lee's Swagger by Stephen Hunter. Starting with Point of Impact, this is the story of a U.S. Army sniper who served in Vietnam, where he earned the nickname Bob the Nailer, which is not commentary on his pickup prowess in the local bars. Swagger is a loner, and he's suffering from PTSD and is constantly finding himself in situations that require his excellent sniping skills. Lots of action, much of it unbelievable, but I love this guy. So there you have it. Now, of course, I've left out a bunch of other series I really like Glenn Cook's Black Company and Jack Vance's Dying Earth. So I guess that means I'm going to have to make another list. Hold right here. See you later.